In the vast darkness of space, at the edge of Earth's solar system, High Observer Zixterra of the Galactic Confederation adjusted her sensor arrays with growing frustration. The crystalline being had spent 3 cycles studying this backwater system, and the preliminary data seemed almost too perfect, almost suspiciously so. The humans, by all observable measures, were precisely where they should be on the technological development curve. Their primitive chemical rockets, their clumsy attempts at Mars colonization, their constant squabbles over resources, everything aligned perfectly with a Level 2 pre-spacefaring civilization. Perhaps too perfectly. Deep beneath the ice sheets of Antarctica, in a facility that officially didn't exist, General Sarah Martinez stood before a holographic display of Zixterra's observation vessel. The massive command center, carved into the bedrock beneath 2 kilometers of ice, hummed with activity as hundreds of officers monitored humanity's most closely guarded secret, the Aegis Protocol. Status report on the Confederation Observer, Martinez commanded, her voice steady despite the weight of responsibility pressing down on her shoulders. The fate of humanity's greatest deception rested on maintaining their carefully crafted illusion of technological inferiority. Colonel Chen's fingers danced across his quantum interface as he pulled up the latest data. The Observer continues to accept our surface narrative, General. Their long-range scans remain focused on our decoy installations. The Ghost Fleet is performing perfectly. They're completely buying the chemical rocket launches and the staged ISS maintenance missions. Martinez nodded, allowing herself a small smile. The Ghost Fleet, hundreds of deliberately primitive spacecraft, designed to be seen and recorded, represented just one layer of humanity's massive deception. The truth was far more impressive than anything the Confederation could imagine. Humanity had detected their first alien signals in 2034, decades before official first contact. That discovery had changed everything. In secret, the nations of Earth had done something unprecedented. They'd united not out of love or trust, but out of necessity. The Aegis Protocol was born, present a convincing image of a divided, primitive species while secretly preparing for any possible threat. New contact, announced Lieutenant Rivera, her eyes fixed on the quantum display. Large vessel just dropped out of FTL at the Kuiper Belt boundary. Configuration matches Drachnid Empire signatures. Martinez's smile faded. The Drachnids were known throughout the galaxy as opportunists who preyed on developing civilizations. Their arrival wasn't a coincidence. Show me. The holographic display shifted, revealing a massive warship decorated with the distinctive bone-white markings of the Drachnid military. Its energy readings suggested enough firepower to level a continent. They're early, Chen observed. Intelligence suggested they wouldn't make a move for another 3 months. The Drachnids have never been known for their patience, Martinez replied. Initiate silent shield protocols. Alert all Phantom Fleet vessels to maintain cover but stand ready, and get me a direct link to the World Council. Throughout the solar system, humanity's true military might stirred to life while remaining perfectly hidden. Within the asteroid belt, what appeared to be ordinary rocks concealed state-of-the-art weapon platforms. Beneath the surfaces of Mars and Venus, vast hangars housed spacecraft that would make the Confederation's finest vessels look primitive by comparison. And in the Oort cloud, hidden by technology that the aliens couldn't even theorize existed, waited the true pride of human innovation. The Phantom Fleet. Ships that could bend light, gravity, and space itself. Vessels crewed by generations of soldiers who had trained in absolute secrecy, preparing for a moment they hoped would never come. The Drachnid warship moved closer, its sensors probing Earth's defenses, or lack thereof. From their perspective, they would find exactly what they expected: a handful of primitive satellites, some basic orbital platforms, and a species that still burned chemical fuel to reach their own orbit. In her observation post, Zixterra recorded the Drachnid vessel's arrival with growing concern. Her mandate prevented direct interference with developing civilizations, but her ethical subroutines screamed at her to warn the humans somehow. They would be defenseless against Drachnid aggression. She need not have worried. The Drachnid ship launched its first attack without warning, a barrage of plasma torpedoes aimed at Earth's most visible orbital installations. The projectiles never reached their targets. They simply vanished. Aboard the Drachnid vessel, War Commander Vexthor stared at his sensor readings in disbelief. "Impossible," he snarled. "Fire again. Full spread." The second barrage disappeared just as completely as the first. And then, in a moment that would be recorded in 1,000 alien histories, humanity dropped its mask. Throughout the solar system, sophisticated holograms flickered and died, revealing the true state of human technology. The asteroid belt came alive with defense platforms that made Drachnid weapons look like children's toys. The surfaces of Mars and Venus split open as hangars disgorged sleek vessels that moved with impossible grace. And from the Oort cloud, the Phantom Fleet emerged from its quantum shroud, surrounding the Drachnid vessel in a display of military might that defied their understanding of physics itself. General Martinez's voice echoed across all frequencies, translated simultaneously into every known alien language. "This is General Sarah Martins of the United Earth Defense Force to the Drachnid vessel. Your unprovoked attack on our installations constitutes an act of war. You have 30 seconds to power down your weapons and engines. This is your only warning." In her observation post, Zixtera's crystalline form flickered with shock as her sensors tried to process what she was seeing. The humans hadn't just been hiding their technology. They had created innovations that by all rights shouldn't be possible for another 1,000 years. The Drachnid commander, faced with the greatest military force he had ever encountered, made the only logical choice. His ship's engines went dark, weapons powered down, and surrender signals flashed across all frequencies. As Martinez watched the Drachnid vessel's submission, she knew that everything would change now. Humanity's great deception was over, but its purpose had been served. They had bought the time they needed to prepare, to build, to unite. Now they would step onto the galactic stage, not as primitive newcomers to be exploited, but as equals to be respected or feared. The age of humanity's false modesty was over, and the galaxy would never be the same. The news of humanity's technological deception spread through the galaxy like a shockwave. In the crystalline spires of the Confederation's Central Command, the Council of Observers convened an emergency session. High Observer Zixtera stood before her peers, her crystalline form still vibrating with the residual shock of what she had witnessed in the Sol system. They didn't just hide their technology, she explained to the assembled council. They fundamentally altered our understanding of what's possible. Their quantum shroud technology alone represents an advancement that should have taken centuries to develop. In the viewing chamber above them, holographic displays showed the Earth Defense Fleet's engagement with the Drachnid warship. Ships phased in and out of normal space, weapons struck with surgical precision, and defensive systems adapted in real time to enemy attacks. It was a display of military prowess that had shaken the galaxy's power structures to their core. But what truly terrified the Council wasn't just humanity's military might. It was the revelation of how long and how thoroughly they had been watched. Deep within Titan's methane seas, Dr. Elena Patel stood in the heart of humanity's most sophisticated intelligence facility, the Argus Array. Holographic screens surrounded her, each showing live feeds from thousands of quantum observation posts scattered throughout the galaxy, posts that no alien civilization had ever detected. "Show me the Confederation Council chamber," she commanded. Instantly, one of the screens expanded, showing a crystal-clear view of the ongoing emergency session. The audio came through perfectly, translated in real time. How did we never detect their observation capabilities? One of the council members demanded. Our quantum shield technology should have prevented any such surveillance. Elena smiled. The aliens still didn't understand. Their quantum shields were based on principles that humanity had surpassed decades ago. While the galaxy's civilizations had followed predictable technological paths, humanity had taken a different approach entirely. Director Patel, Her AI assistant's voice interrupted her thoughts. "We're detecting unusual activity in the Drachnid home system. It appears they're mobilizing their reserve fleets." "Show me." The displays shifted to show massive shipyards orbiting a burning world. Drachnid vessels of war were powering up, their bone-white hulls gleaming in the light of their sun. The Empire wasn't taking their humiliation lying down. "Alert General Martinez," Elena ordered, "and activate our deep cover assets in the Drachnid Military Command." Throughout the Drachnid Empire, carefully placed quantum processors, disguised as ordinary computer components, began transmitting. For years, humanity had seeded their technology throughout alien civilizations, building a web of surveillance that was virtually undetectable because it used principles the aliens hadn't even theorized yet. In her Antarctic command center, General Martinez received the intelligence updates with grim satisfaction. "They're reacting exactly as predicted," she noted to Colonel Chen. "The Drachnids will attempt to save face with a show of force, while the Confederation tries to understand how we achieved our technological leap." "And the Sylvani?" Chen asked, referring to the oldest known alien civilization. Martinez gestured, and a new hologram appeared, showing the tree-like beings in their council chambers, still debating whether to make contact. "They're the only ones who might have guessed at some of our capabilities. Their organic technology operates on principles similar to our quantum mechanics." The Sylvani were right to be cautious. What none of the alien civilizations had yet realized was that humanity's great deception went far deeper than military technology. The quantum shrouds, the phase drives, the adaptive weapons, these were just the surface. In a secure facility beneath the Pacific Ocean, Dr. James Chen, no relation to the Colonel, monitored humanity's greatest secret, the bridge. A quantum computational network that spanned the entire solar system, processing data in ways that would seem like magic to even the most advanced alien scientists. The bridge was why humanity had needed to hide for so long. It wasn't just a technological advancement. It represented a fundamental shift in understanding how the universe worked. And humanity had needed time to understand and control this power before revealing its existence to a galaxy that might not be ready for it. New data coming in from the Sylvani sector, one of his technicians announced. "Their organic computers are starting to detect traces of our quantum network." James nodded. It was inevitable that the Sylvani would be the first to notice. Their biological technology operated on principles that occasionally intersected with quantum mechanics. "Let them see a little," he ordered. "It's time to begin the next phase." Throughout the galaxy, humanity's hidden watchers continued their vigilant observation. In the hearts of alien suns, quantum sensors monitored emission patterns that could reveal military movements. In the depths of space, cloaked satellites recorded fleet movements and diplomatic exchanges. Even in the private chambers of alien leaders, hidden devices captured every word and gesture. But it wasn't about espionage anymore. Humanity had moved beyond simply defending itself. They had spent decades watching, learning, understanding, not just about alien technology, but about alien cultures, hopes, and fears. Back in the Antarctic Command Center, Martinez reviewed the latest intelligence reports. The Drachnids were mobilizing for war, the Confederation was paralyzed with indecision, and the Sylvani were starting to guess at the truth. Everything was proceeding according to plan. "Send word to all outposts," she commanded. "Initialize Protocol Omega." Throughout the solar system, hidden quantum transmitters activated, sending signals that would reach every corner of the galaxy. It was time for humanity to reveal not just their military might, but their true purpose, the reason they had hidden their capabilities for so long. The galaxy was about to learn that humanity's deception hadn't been about fear or aggression. It had been about preparation. Preparation for a threat that none of the other civilizations had detected yet. A threat that only humanity's unique approach to science and technology had allowed them to see coming. As Elena watched the quantum feeds from across the galaxy, she knew that the real test was just beginning. Humanity had successfully hidden their true nature for decades. Now they would need to prove they could be leaders, not through force or fear, but through the same ingenuity and foresight that had allowed them to fool the galaxy for so long. The age of secrecy was over. The age of revelation was about to begin. The Drachnid war fleet emerged from hyperspace at the edge of the Sol system, their bone-white hulls reflecting the distant sunlight. 5,000 ships strong, it was the largest military force the Empire had ever assembled. War Commander Supreme Krastvul stood on his flagship's bridge, his scaled hide bristling with anticipation. This would be the battle that restored the Empire's honor. Multiple contacts detected, his sensor officer reported. Human vessels. They're just sitting there. Krastvul studied the tactical display. Barely 300 human ships waited in formation near Mars' orbit, seemingly unconcerned by the overwhelming force arrayed against them. Either they were insane, or, "It's a trap," he growled, but pride overrode his caution. "Deploy the fleet. Standard combat formation. Let's show these upstart humans the true might of the Drachnid Empire." In her flagship, Prometheus, Admiral Sarah Chen watched the Drachnid fleet's approach with calculated patience. The massive vessel, hidden within a quantum bubble that made it appear no larger than a frigate, carried enough firepower to level a continent. But its true power lay in its role as the control center for humanity's most advanced combat system, the Nexus. "All ships reporting ready," Admiral Captain Rodriguez announced. "Quantum sync at optimal levels. The bridge is fully integrated with all combat systems." Chen nodded, her eyes fixed on the holographic display showing the approaching Drachnid armada. "Begin Operation Thunderstrike." Phase 1. Throughout the human fleet, crews stood ready at their stations. Unlike traditional space combat, where each ship operated independently, the Nexus linked all human vessels into a single, synchronized organism. Through quantum entanglement, every ship could react instantly to changes in the tactical situation, sharing data and coordinating responses faster than thought. The Drachnid fleet opened fire first, launching a massive barrage of plasma torpedoes and graviton beams. The space between the fleets lit up like a new sun as thousands of weapons reached for their targets. Not a single shot hit. The human fleet split apart in a dance of impossible precision, ships moving through gaps in the barrage that shouldn't have existed. It wasn't just evasion, it was prediction. The Nexus had calculated the exact trajectory of every weapon before they were even fired, plotting optimal evasion courses microseconds ahead of time. Impossible. Krastvul roared as he watched his fleet's opening salvo miss completely. No one could have predicted. His words died in his throat as the human fleet began their counterattack. Ships phased in and out of normal space, appearing at impossible angles, firing weapons that seemed to ignore the laws of physics. Quantum-tipped missiles phased through Drachnid shields, as if they didn't exist. Gravity lances collapsed entire squadrons into microscopic points of infinite density. But it was the coordination that truly terrified the Drachnids. Every human ship moved in perfect synchronization, creating overlapping fields of fire that left no avenue of escape. It wasn't a battle. It was a symphony of destruction. In the Confederation observation post, High Observer Zixtera watched in stunned silence. The humans weren't just winning. They were rewriting the rules of space combat. Her sensors detected quantum fluctuations she couldn't even begin to understand, suggesting technologies that shouldn't be possible for another millennium. Back aboard Prometheus, Chen initiated Phase 2. Deploy the swarm. From hidden bays in the human vessels, millions of drone fighters emerged. But these weren't ordinary drones. Each one was connected to the Nexus, controlled not by individual pilots, but by the collective consciousness of the bridge itself. They moved like a fluid, adapting instantly to any threat, sacrificing individual units without hesitation for tactical advantage. The Drachnid fleet, already struggling against the main human force, found itself engulfed in a storm of autonomous fighters that seemed to anticipate their every move. Ships that tried to escape found their hyperspace drives suddenly inoperable, trapped by quantum fields they couldn't detect. Status report, Chen demanded, though the Nexus had already provided the information directly to her neural interface. Enemy fleet is in disarray, Rodriguez replied. 70% of their vessels are either disabled or destroyed. No casualties on our side. The quantum shields are holding perfectly. Chen nodded. It was proceeding exactly as the simulations had predicted. The Drachnids had expected a conventional battle, bringing overwhelming force to crush a numerically inferior opponent. Instead, they had run headlong into the future of warfare. In his flagship's rapidly deteriorating bridge, Krastful faced the unthinkable prospect of defeat. "Launch the planet killers," he ordered, his voice thick with desperation. "Target their homeworld. If we're going to fall, we'll take them with us." Massive missiles, each carrying enough antimatter to destroy a continent, launched from the Drachnid reserve ships. They accelerated to relativistic speeds, making interception seemingly impossible. Chen allowed herself a small smile. Initiate Phase 3. Colonel Chen brought up the relevant displays, showing a complex network of quantum sensors and processing nodes scattered throughout human space. "The network is ready, General. But without the cooperation of other civilizations, our coverage will be incomplete." Martinez studied the data with a grim expression. "Then we better hope Ambassador Santos is persuasive." Back in the assembly hall, Santos was explaining humanity's perspective. "When we first detected alien life, we had a choice to make. We could announce ourselves immediately, join the galactic community as we found it, and accept our place as newcomers to be guided and controlled." He paused, letting his words sink in. "Or we could wait, watch, and prepare. Not out of fear or aggression, but because we saw something in our early observations that deeply concerned us." The Sylvani Elder's bioluminescence shifted to patterns of intense interest. "What did you see, Ambassador?" Santos gestured, and holographic displays appeared throughout the chamber, showing complex quantum data streams that most of the delegates couldn't begin to comprehend. "We detected a pattern in the quantum fabric of space-time itself. A pattern that none of your civilizations could see because you all developed your technologies along similar paths." In her private chambers, High Observer Zixtera analyzed the human data with growing alarm. Her crystalline form vibrated at frequencies indicating extreme distress as she began to understand the implications. The humans hadn't just developed different technologies. They had discovered an entirely new way of perceiving reality. "The pattern is accelerating," Santos continued. "What we initially predicted would take millennia is now approaching within decades. This is why we maintained our deception, why we developed technologies that seemed impossible, why we created the bridge." The chamber erupted in questions and demands for clarification. The Drachnid representative scales had paled to an almost white color. The Sylvani Elder's bioluminescence had shifted to patterns never before recorded. In the quantum observation room, Elena watched the reactions with professional interest. "They're starting to understand," she noted. "But will they believe it in time?" Santos raised his hand for silence. "We didn't come here today to simply explain our deception or to establish diplomatic relations. We came to warn you and to offer an alliance. Because what we discovered, what we've been preparing for all these years, it's not just a threat to humanity. It's a threat to all sentient life in the galaxy." The chamber fell into stunned silence as Santos revealed humanity's final secret, the true purpose of the bridge, the reason for their quantum technologies, and the nature of the pattern they had discovered in the fabric of reality itself. In the Antarctic Command Center, General Martinez watched the revelation unfold. "Send the signal," she ordered. "Activate all quantum arrays. It's time to show them everything." Throughout the galaxy, hidden human quantum sensors began broadcasting their data directly to every major scientific institution and governmental body. The pattern that humanity had discovered decades ago was now impossible to ignore, its implications too serious to deny. The age of secrecy was over. The age of preparation was beginning. and the galaxy would need every advantage humanity's unique perspective could provide if they were to face what was coming. The holographic displays in the Confederation Assembly Hall showed what humanity had discovered decades ago, a quantum decay pattern spreading through the very fabric of space-time. Not just a theory or a possibility, but an observable phenomenon that threatened the fundamental laws of physics themselves. We call it the Void Cascade, Ambassador Santos explained to the stunned assembly. A progressive breakdown in the quantum structure of our universe, spreading like a cancer through space-time itself. Every FTL jump, every conventional quantum computer, every traditional hyperspace engine, they all accelerate the decay. Elder Nixes of the Sylvani stepped forward, her bioluminescent patterns shifting rapidly as she processed the data. But our civilizations have been using these technologies for millennia. Why haven't we detected this phenomenon? In the Antarctic Command Center, General Martinez watched the diplomatic feed while monitoring the bridge's latest calculations. "Show them," she ordered. At her command, new data streams appeared in the assembly hall. The quantum displays shifted, showing how traditional alien sensor technology was fundamentally blind to the decay pattern. Like trying to detect dark matter with a magnetic compass, they had been using the wrong tools to observe a phenomenon that operated on principles they didn't understand. Throughout the solar system, hidden quantum arrays activated. Space itself seemed to twist and fold, creating artificial corridors of warped reality. The planet-killer missiles, traveling at near-light speed, found themselves trapped in closed temporal loops, endlessly circling back on themselves until their antimatter payloads destabilized harmlessly in the void. "Your weapons are neutralized, War Commander." Chen's voice echoed through every Drachnid command channel. "Your fleet is defeated. Surrender now, and we will show mercy." The battle was over. The Drachnid fleet, once the pride of their empire, now floated in ruins. Of the 5,000 ships that had arrived, barely 1,000 remained operational, and those were rapidly powering down their weapons. But as Chen watched the Drachnid surrender signals flood in, she knew this victory was about more than military supremacy. It was a demonstration, not just to the Drachnids, but to the entire galaxy, of why humanity had hidden their true capabilities for so long. They hadn't been developing weapons. They had been revolutionizing the very nature of warfare, creating systems and technologies that made traditional space combat obsolete. The Nexus, the quantum drives, the bridge, these weren't just advancements. They were evolutionary leaps that changed everything. As the last Drachnid ships surrendered, Chen opened a channel to Earth Command. "Operation Thunderstrike complete. Initiate diplomatic protocols." The real work was about to begin. Humanity had proven their military might. Now they would need to prove they could use that power wisely. In the Grand Assembly Hall of the Galactic Confederation, representatives from 1,000 worlds gathered for an emergency session. The massive chamber, usually a model of orderly discourse, buzzed with nervous energy as delegates discussed humanity's shocking demonstration of power. The Sylvani ambassador, Elder Nixes, stood before the assembly, her bark-like skin glowing with bioluminescent patterns of concern. "We cannot ignore the implications of what we have witnessed," she announced, her voice resonating through the chamber. "The humans didn't just defeat the Drachnid fleet. They rendered our fundamental understanding of warfare obsolete." In a secure observation room adjacent to the chamber, Dr. Elena Patel watched through quantum sensors as the galaxy's most powerful beings grappled with humanity's revelation. Beside her stood Ambassador Michael Santos, preparing for humanity's first official address to the Confederation. "They're afraid," Elena noted, studying the biological readings from the assembled delegates. "Not just of our technology, but of what else we might be hiding." Santos nodded, adjusting his formal uniform. "Fear can be useful, but it's not what we need right now. Show me the latest data from the bridge." Elena gestured, and a holographic display materialized between them, showing a complex web of quantum signatures spreading throughout the galaxy. The pattern was growing, accelerating, becoming more unstable with each passing moment. "It's happening faster than we predicted," she said quietly. "We may have less time than we thought." In the assembly hall, the Drachnid representative was speaking, his scales still bearing the marks of recent combat. "We demand sanctions against Earth. Their deception violates every principle of galactic law. They spied on our civilizations, infiltrated our networks, manipulated our—" "You attacked them unprovoked," interrupted the Confederation security chief, his crystalline form pulsing with agitation. Their deception, while concerning, was clearly defensive in nature. The real question is, why did they feel the need to hide their true capabilities for so long? The chamber fell silent as Ambassador Santos entered, his presence commanding attention without any need for authority or title. He moved to the central podium, the same platform where countless diplomatic accords had been negotiated over the centuries. "Distinguished representatives of the Galactic Confederation," he began, his voice calm but carrying an undertone of urgency. "You're asking the wrong questions. The issue isn't how we hid our capabilities, or even why we felt compelled to deceive you. The real question is, what did we discover that made such extreme measures necessary?" In the Antarctic Command Center, General Martinez watched the diplomatic broadcast while reviewing the latest data from the quantum arrays. The patterns were becoming clearer now, impossible to ignore. They had hoped for more time, but the Drachnid attack had forced their hand. "Display status of Protocol Omega," she commanded. "This is why we had to deceive you," Santos continued. "Your civilizations developed along similar technological paths, each building upon the discoveries of the last. But when humanity first detected alien signals, we took a different approach. We asked not just how to replicate your technologies, but whether we should." Dr. Elena Patel, watching from her quantum observation room, pulled up the historical data. The first detection of the void cascade had come in 2035, just months after humanity's initial discovery of alien life. A team of quantum physicists, trying to reverse engineer alien FTL technology, had instead discovered its terrible cost. "The bridge isn't just a quantum computer network," Santos explained. "It's a fundamentally new way of interacting with space-time itself. Our ships don't tear through space like your FTL drives. They work with it, preserving the quantum fabric rather than ripping it apart." High Observer Zixtera's crystalline form vibrated with realization. "Your military technology. It wasn't just about defense against external threats." "No," Santos confirmed. "Every advance we made was dual purpose. Our quantum shrouds don't just hide our ships, they repair quantum damage in their wake. Our phase drives don't just evade weapons, they stabilize space-time as they move. Even our combat drones help maintain the integrity of the quantum fabric." The Drachnid representative, his scales now a pale shade of shock, found his voice. How long do we have?" In response, Santos activated the final data stream. The holographic display expanded to show the entire galaxy, with areas of quantum decay highlighted in ominous red. The pattern was spreading, accelerating, feeding upon itself. Without intervention. 50 years before the cascade becomes irreversible. Another century before it begins to affect normal space. Within 500 years, the quantum fabric of our galaxy will completely unravel. The chamber erupted in panic. Delegates called for immediate action, for the shutdown of all FTL travel, for desperate measures. But humanity had anticipated this reaction. "We have a solution," Santos announced, his voice cutting through the chaos. "But it will require something unprecedented. True cooperation between all our civilizations." In orbit around Earth, hidden quantum arrays began powering up. Throughout the solar system, the full extent of humanity's preparations became clear. The bridge wasn't just a defensive network, it was the prototype for a galaxy-wide quantum stabilization system. "We've spent decades preparing not just technology, but a complete restructuring of how we interact with space-time," Santos explained. "Our quantum arrays can halt the cascade, even reverse it. but they need to be deployed throughout the galaxy, integrated with modified versions of your existing technologies. Elder Nixus stepped forward again. You're asking us to abandon technologies we've relied upon for millennia, to trust our future to human innovations that we barely understand. No, Santos corrected. We're asking you to work with us to save our galaxy. We don't want to replace your technologies. We want to help you evolve them. The bridge can be adapted to work with Sylvani organic computing. Drachnid power systems can be modified to support quantum stabilization. Even Confederation crystalline technology has properties we can utilize. In the Antarctic Command Center, General Martinez watched as the delegates began to understand. This was why humanity had hidden for so long, not just to protect themselves, but to perfect technologies that could save everyone. Initiate final phase of Protocol Omega, she commanded. Throughout human space, quantum arrays pulsed with energy. In the assembly hall, the holographic displays showed something remarkable. Areas of quantum decay beginning to stabilize, then heal. This is just the beginning, Santos said softly. What we've built in our solar system can be replicated throughout the galaxy, but it will take all of us, working together, to implement it in time. The Confederation Council called for a vote. In all its history, there had never been a unanimous decision. Until now, every civilization, from the ancient Sylvani to the humble Drachnids, pledged their support to what would become known as the Quantum Preservation Initiative. As Elena watched the proceedings from her quantum observation post, she allowed herself a small smile. Humanity had emerged from hiding not as conquerors or victims, but as guardians. They had developed their technologies not just to protect themselves, but to protect all sentient life. The age of secrecy was over. The age of cooperation was beginning. And in the quantum fabric of space-time itself, the first signs of healing began to appear. In her command center, General Martinez looked at the final data streams from the bridge. The pattern was shifting, changing, improving. It wasn't just about survival anymore. It was about evolution. Humanity had shown the galaxy not just a new way to fight, but a new way to exist. The Great Deception had served its purpose. Now, at last, the real work could begin.